prosecution did not present any evidence for that charge. I believe there is no evidence. I don't believe that Judge Tracie Hunter committed that crime of providing medical records to her brother to help him in his situation of firing from the juvenile court. I believe that we have a more racialized situation in our city than we understand. I don't think intentions are to force things to be racialized, but the realities come up to our attention. And Tracie Hunter has helped bring those realities to my attention. I've known her 15 years. I trust her character. The reality is that there's 20% African Americans in Hamilton County. But the reality is also that about 85% of the arrests, charged, and convicted, and then those youth bound over to adult court, about 7 out of 8 of those are African American youth. So we have a problem in our city, and I'll tell you, I don't think it's unique to Cincinnati. I think we find this in major cities across the Great Lakes area, the Midwest, from Louisville to Milwaukee, from St. Louis to Pittsburgh. And it's time that we bring attention to these issues. Concentrated poverty, racially concentrated poverty is a factor. The way we police those in concentrated poverty instead of policing everyone the same is a factor. I think unconscious bias is a factor. And I know in my own life, it required having cross-racial friendships to begin to understand what life is experienced, what it's experienced like for someone of color in our city and in our country. I don't believe that Tracie is guilty of the crime she's been charged with. I believe what she's guilty of, if anything, is maybe a lack of experience, maybe not knowing how to reach out for help to her colleagues for the work that she had. But I also believe that she is someone who should be lauded for having brought to our attention the racialization of the justice system in the juvenile court of Hamilton County. She's the first woman, the first African American elected to be a judge in juvenile court, Hamilton County, in the entire history of our county. And the fact that so many youth are bound over to adult court, so many of them is African American, so many are charged and convicted who are African American, disproportionate in a huge way compared to the population demographic makeup of our county. I think all of that begs the question, why? And I think we need to look deeper as to what's happening with Tracie's having been elected, having had a hard-fought election process, and then not having the support maybe she needed to do her job that she was called to do by the electorate as well as, I think, the Lord. So I really think there's more to this than meets the eye. And for me, I stand with Tracie. I trust in her character. And I don't believe that she's guilty of the felonies that she's been charged with. Thanks for being here.
My name is Gregory Chandler. I'm the senior pastor at World Outreach Christian Church and a member of the City Servants Board. Just before we allow questions, I just wanted to make the media aware, if you all weren't already, there was a new motion filed today in the Court of Common Pleas, a motion for a new trial based on juror misconduct. A hearing has been requested, and this has been filed by Judge Hunter's attorney, Clyde Bennett. There are copies here if you don't have them, and we have a speaker here today that will answer if you have any questions related to that or any of the other speakers that are here today. So if you have questions now for any of the speakers that spoke or a reference to this, you may do so at this time.
We know that there's been some issues with Judge Hunter with the Supreme Court in the state of Ohio as well. I mean, do you think that's part of this? I mean, how do you explain that? You know, with her filing things late, and she's been kind of chastised by that court. What is your response to that?
Judge Hunter's filing practice is not any different than is common to the juvenile court. I think everything that's happened statewide at the Ohio Justice Supreme Court level and down has been related to the same things that we talked about here today. I think the fact that Tracie won that election was shocking, and I think it shakes the power establishment for Hamilton County Juvenile Court. I think when you have an inertia, a racialized inertia like we've had for so many decades, and that's disrupted, that inertia is disrupted, that's a shock to the system. And I don't think as a city we knew what to do with that.
So you believe all of this is racially motivated? I mean, do you think
I
Judge
believe
Hunter's
it's-
made any mistakes at all? Or?
Yeah, I think she's had mistakes of inexperience. I think she's had mistakes of not maybe accepting the help of her colleagues around her who could have helped her through some of the process. I don't believe she's guilty of felonies.
What is your hope with this new motion? I read just a little bit of it before we came here with the 4 women being accused of lying on her questionnaire. It seemed like, at least when I was in court the other day, we kind of feel like, it seems like Judge Nadel kind of gave us some hints as to how he's going to rule, but do you guys believe this motion will be successful regarding the jury 4 women?
I'm Bishop Bobby Hilton, and we think that this motion today is very important because that was a jury 4 person who apparently did not tell the truth as they were going through who would sit on that jury, and to find out that she was misused sexually as a young lady, and even said that this would have an effect upon her, and misused by a minister. This would have an effect on the rest of her life. Then it's a problem when a person like that sits on the jury. And we're finding out these things that not only was she abused and have a problem with ministers, but she's the wife of an attorney that works for the law firm that sued Judge Hunter. There is another person on the jury that works for the television station that sued Judge Hunter. There were other folk on the jury that said before the trial started, they had made up their mind against Judge Hunter. We're not asking for special treatment, but we're asking for fair treatment. And we don't seem to have had fair treatment in the trial of Judge Tracie Hunter.
So with the jury 4 woman, you believe this is potentially she had animus against ministers that impacted how she viewed Judge Hunter, even as a woman?
Absolutely, and those are according to her words. We have her documents that she had a problem with ministers, she had a problem with church because of what happened to her.
You're aware that Judge Hunter is a minister.
I am, but she's a woman, so I would think maybe it would be a problem with male ministers rather than female ministers.
Well, the jury 4 person never said that it was a problem with just male ministers. She had a problem with church. She has a problem with praying, and that tends not to have an issue with male or female if you have a problem even having your children to pray at night.
Have you all been in contact with Judge Hunter throughout this whole process? What has your experience been like in watching her go through this? And can you tell us how she's handling all of this? I mean, when she comes to court, she appears to have a smile on her face. She seems to at least be weathering this fairly well.
I've been in touch with her because I wanted to pray with her. When you believe in somebody's integrity and their compassion and their commitment to really work with the system to help these young people, then you want to be part of that. And so I just wanted her to know she's not alone, that there are a whole lot of us throughout the city who believe this issue needs to be dealt with a retrial.
Sir, can you say and spell your name for us so we get that right?
Yes. Jerry Kirk, K-I-R-K. I was pastor of the College Hill Presbyterian Church for 20 years and now serve at Brett College. And I'm delighted to be here because of the value that I believe Judge Tracie Hunter is to this community and to the young people of this community.
Sir, if you had an opportunity to give a recommendation to Judge Nadel's court, what would that recommendation be?
Well, I think the 6th charge needs to be tossed for 2 reasons. The actual charge doesn't fit the crime that she's being convicted for. The crime that she's being convicted for is providing medical documents for her brother for his case. An inappropriate use of her office and power to do that. That's not what the charge is. The charge is about securing contract or services. Secondly, there was no evidence presented for that charge. The one that was based on innuendo, there was no evidence, just innuendo. So I believe it should be tossed.
Could you say and spell your name for us, please?
So my name is Chris Beard, C-H-R-I-S-B-E-A-R-D.
Your pastor?
I pastor People's Church, no apostrophe.
Sir, I'm also curious about what, if any, recommendation or suggestions you have concerning the jury selection process. It concerns me that it came to my attention this morning after the motion was filed that Sandra Kirkham also gave a donation in the amount of $250 to the jury commissioner's father. So I'd like to know if you have any recommendations as well concerning the jury selection process and what needs to happen in that situation. Nothing?
I think those facts, Steve.
I mean, I think the jury selection, I think at the end of the day, I want to come back to that Supreme Court question you asked. The problem is that the volume of young people that are getting thrown into our system makes it impossible for any juvenile judge to do their job. We are trying and incarcerating way too many young people of color. We are starting the process by suspensions in kindergarten. There is a pipeline. I've heard the statistic, if you can't read in 3rd grade, they've got a jail cell for you. That's insane that we allow that kind of culture to grow up with the war on drugs. So part of this idea of backlogging is a reality for Judge Williams and the other juvenile justices that are there right now. And we should be talking about that. I don't have any direct knowledge of how the jury was selected. I do think that there are principalities and powers in our community that have a way that they've always done things that was disrupted by the election of Tracie Hunter.
Sir, can you say and spell your name?
Yes, Troy Jackson, T-R-O-Y, and I go with the traditional spelling of Jackson. J-A-C-K-S.
You're a pastor or
Former pastor of University Christian Church. I now attend People's Church, and I'm the director of the Amos Project.
And let me also state that although there was conversation during the trial regarding Judge Hunter submitting medical records of someone to her brother, there was never 1 ounce of evidence that happened. Not 1 ounce. If there would have been evidence, if they would have had any kind of documents that she did it, it would have been presented in court. So it was talked about. It was never, there was not 1 document given over. The question was never asked of the brother. Did she give you medical records of this person that there was a problem with? That question was not answered. It was avoided. So that statement was brought up, and it was just a cloud thrown out. And as it's been stated, what she was convicted of, there's no evidence. She should have never been convicted of that, of count 6.
This is potentially a very big week in this case. How is Judge Hunter doing?
Judge Hunter doing well. She's doing as well as could be expected under pressure.
It's exhausting. It's been exhausting since the election itself, and all the votes weren't being counted.
Right.
And
right.
I remember being in the Board of Elections room and just raising the question, these votes that aren't being counted, are they predominantly from urban core precincts? And even that created a huge eruption from the Board of Elections, from the chairman at that time. And I think these are fair questions. When I say we have a racialized history, I'm not saying there's conscious, angry racism going on. That's how I've always understood racism. The racialization of our society is the concentrated poverty and the unequal experience in our society of people of color. And so I think Tracie's going upstream against a lot of things that a lot of us, I myself haven't experienced and wouldn't necessarily understand, but I believe they're true and they're real. And so you can imagine she's exhausted, but she's keeping her chin up.